The widow who hid in the rocks, the desert planet Charon 4, was quiet that evening. The two suns had dropped behind the rocky cliffs, and the cold wind began to rise. In a narrow cave, hidden deep between broken stones, an alien woman held her child, close. Her name was Jera. She was a widow. She was afraid. Her mate had died just 10 moons ago in a skirmish with pirates. Now she was alone with her small son, Niv, only 3 cycles old. His tiny hands gripped her cloak as she whispered to him, "Shh, they will not find us." But she wasn't only hiding from pirates anymore. The new danger had arrived from the sky. A ship. A human ship. Jera had grown up hearing stories about humans, blood-drinking beasts from a savage blue planet called Earth. Her people believed that humans hunted for sport, ate alien flesh, and laughed while doing it. Even the elders warned, if you see a human run, they don't feel, they don't forgive. And now, one had landed. She had seen the crash from the hills. Smoke, fire, noise. The human's shuttle had been damaged, but he survived. She saw him limping, helmet off, scanning the area. Tall, armored. Muscles like a war drone. Jera froze as she saw him walking toward the rocks where she was hiding. She whispered to Niv again. "Don't cry, please don't cry." But Niv whimpered. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. Jera had barely found enough dry leaves to chew, and water was running low. She had no weapon, no energy left. Suddenly, crunch, bootsteps. Heavy. Close. Jera's heart raced. Her eyes darted toward the opening of the cave. She saw him, standing just meters away. The human. He was looking around, scanning with a small device, probably searching for shelter or prey. He paused. He turned, and he saw her. Jera froze. Her arms tightened around her child. Her skin shivered. Her breath stopped. The human dropped his scanner. He slowly raised both hands in the air, empty hands, palms forward. No weapon. No threat. Jera's mind screamed, "It's a trick. He'll pounce when I blink. Don't move. Don't speak." But he didn't move. Instead, he did something strange. Something she never expected. He reached into his bag and slowly pulled out a small water bottle. He placed it on the ground, then stepped back. He pointed to the bottle, and then to Niv. Jera stared. Water? Why? Was it poisoned? Was it a trap? She didn't trust him. Couldn't. But Niv was crying again, his lips cracked and dry. She reached out, trembling, and took the bottle. The human didn't move. He just watched. Calm. Patient. She opened the bottle and sniffed. It was clean. Cold. Pure. She let Niv drink first. Then she took a sip herself. Her body shook with relief. She looked up again. He was still there. Watching. Not smiling, not frowning. Just watching. Then he spoke. His voice deep but soft. "You're safe. I won't hurt you." Jera didn't answer. She couldn't understand every word, but she caught enough. Safe. Won't hurt. Impossible. Still. Her instinct told her something strange. His voice didn't sound like a hunter. It sounded like someone lonely. The human looked around, then slowly sat down on a flat rock nearby. Not close, not threatening. He took off one of his gloves and touched his chest. He said, "Cole," then pointed at himself again. Cole. A name? Jera blinked. Was this a game? A trick to lower her guard? But Niv had stopped crying. He was now looking at the human with curious eyes. He even reached out a small hand. Jera quickly pulled him back. "No," she whispered. "Don't." The human, Cole, watched quietly. Then he nodded. As if he understood, he stood up, picked up his bag, began to walk away. But before he left, he placed something else on the ground. A food bar and a small cloth blanket. Then he walked into the shadows. Jera didn't move for several minutes. She listened, waited. The sound of his boots faded. She looked at the blanket, at the food. She felt something strange, confusing, not fear, not hatred, something else. Doubt. Was this man really the beast she had feared all her life? Or was he different? Jera didn't have the answer, but as she pulled the blanket over Niv and fed him the small bite of food, one thing was clear. That night, the monster had given more mercy than any of her own kind ever had. The fire she feared the second. Night was colder. Jera sat in the same narrow cave, her arms wrapped around little Niv, who slept quietly now, thanks to the food and water the human, Cole, had left behind. She hadn't moved much since he walked away. Her eyes kept scanning, the darkness waiting for him to return with fangs and fire. Her people always said, humans always take back what they give, with blood. But he didn't return, until sunset. Jera's ears caught the sound first, soft crunches on dry ground, a slow, careful walk. She peeked through the rocks. There he was again. Cole. He walked differently now, slower, maybe limping. He was carrying dry sticks and some kind of glowing fuel brick. He looked up at the sky, then at the cave. Jera ducked her head down quickly. Her breath caught. Should she run? But to where? There was no safety out there. Then, something unexpected happened again. She smelled smoke, but not the thick, choking kind. It was warm, wood, clean. She peeked out again. Cole had made a fire, not near her, not too close, just outside the cave, far enough to show he wasn't trying to trap her, but close enough so the warmth would reach her if she stepped outside. He sat beside the fire, rubbed his hands, and didn't look her way. Jera watched in silence. Her heart told her one thing. This is the moment. He's trying to lure you. But her body was cold, and Niv was shivering. His small feet were like ice. If they stayed inside all night again, they would freeze. She hesitated, then slowly stood, wrapping Niv in the thin cloth the human had left. She stepped out. Cole didn't move. He didn't even turn. The fire crackled gently between them. Jera sat on the far side, not close, just enough to feel the warmth. Niv peeked. Out of the cloth, eyes wide, Cole finally glanced at them. No smile, no noise, just peace. Then Cole picked up a small pot. He poured water into it and added something, small cubes that melted in the liquid. It began to smell sweet, like herbs. He pushed the pot slightly toward her side of the fire, then backed off. Jera stared. Was it safe? Niv sniffed the air and reached for it. She hesitated again, then dipped a finger in the warm drink. She tasted it. It was strange, but not bad. She gave a tiny sip to Niv. He smiled. Jera's shoulders relaxed, just a little. Then Cole spoke again, slow and soft. "Cold night," he said, rubbing his hands. Jera didn't reply. She didn't need to. The truth was in the wind. He pointed to the fire. "Safe," he said. Then he pointed to himself. "Not enemy." Jera's eyes narrowed. She didn't know if she believed that, but he had not touched her. He had not tried to hurt them. He had brought heat, food, water. Was this how humans hunted? With kindness first, make the prey trust them, then eat them? She pushed the thought away. Her people were not always right. She had learned that when her own kind abandoned her after her husband died. No one helped her then. But this human did. Niv crawled forward a little and sat close to the fire. He looked at Cole with big, curious eyes. "Don't," Jera whispered. But Cole didn't reach for him. He simply pulled something from his pocket. A small toy, something round with blinking lights. He rolled it on the ground. It stopped near Niv. Niv touched it, and it lit up in soft blue. He laughed. Jera's heart twisted. That laugh. She hadn't heard it in weeks. Cole sat still, arms around his knees. He said nothing. After a while, he reached into his shirt and pulled something out. A necklace. Metal. On it, a small photo. Jera couldn't see it clearly, but she could tell it was a woman, human, and a small child. He looked at it quietly for a few seconds, then tucked it back under his shirt. Jera saw it. Grief. She recognized it. It was the same look she saw in her own reflection, every night. They were from different worlds, but the pain looked the same. Cole finally stood. He threw 2 more sticks. On the fire, nodded once, then walked into the shadows again. Jera stayed by the fire a long time after he left, holding Niv, watching the toy blink softly. Her fear was still there, but it had changed. It was no longer the fear of being eaten. Now it was the fear of being wrong. What if the monster she feared was actually the protector she needed? The scar on his chest, the morning sun rose like a dull ember over the barren land. Jera woke before Niv. She had not slept much. The fire had died sometime during the night, but its warmth still lingered on her skin. She stepped outside the cave, quietly. The air was still. Dust floated like golden mist. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was heavy, like the calm before a storm. And then she saw him. Cole. He was kneeling near a pile of metal scraps, working on something. The remains of his crashed ship. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing pale skin covered in old burns, scratches, and strange ink patterns, human markings, she guessed. His armor lay beside him, scratched and dirty. He looked smaller without it, less like a beast, more like a man. She didn't plan to walk closer, but her legs moved anyway. Cole noticed her but didn't speak. He simply nodded and went back to work. His hands were steady, moving with the skill of someone who had done this many times before. She noticed his fingers were bruised and his nails cracked. He wasn't a warlord. He was a survivor. He wiped sweat from his face, then stood up. His shirt clung to his chest, wet, dusty. And then Jera saw it, a long, deep scar right across his chest, faded but wide, like something had tried to tear him open. Cole noticed her eyes. He hesitated. Then, he did something unexpected. He pulled his shirt down slightly and pointed at the scar. "Explosion," he said, then tapped his chest. 3 kids, I pulled them out. Got this for it. Jera's brows pulled together. She didn't understand every word, but the message was clear. That scar was a story, not of destruction, but of protection. He pointed again to the necklace she had seen before. He pulled it off and slowly walked closer, not too close, and held it out for her to see. Jera took a cautious step forward. The photo was old, cracked at the corners. It showed a woman and a human child, smiling. Happy. He said softly, "My family, gone now." Jera looked at the necklace, then at him. "Fire?" she asked. He nodded. "War?" He shook his head. "Not war. Mistake. Bomb in a market. I survived. They didn't." Jera felt a strange tug in her chest. This man had known deep loss. Just like her. Different world. Same pain. She looked away. It was too much. Too human. Cole gently placed the necklace back around his neck. Then, he did something that changed everything. He turned and offered her the med pack from his gear. Inside were wound dressings, clean patches, and a healing spray. Jera took it slowly. He pointed to her leg, just above the knee, where a shallow cut had been bothering her for days. She looked at him, unsure. He nodded again. "It'll help." She sat on a rock and sprayed the medicine on the wound. It stung, but then cooled. Niv came out of the cave, rubbing his eyes. He smiled when he saw Cole, then pointed to the toy from last night. Ball. Cole grinned a little, a small grin. The first one Jera had seen. He tossed the blinking toy gently and Niv clapped. Jera didn't stop him this time. Instead, she did something she thought she never would. She spoke his name. Cole. He looked at her, surprised. Then he spoke. Her name too, Jera. It sounded strange in his mouth, but respectful. Then she pointed to her child, Niv. Cole nodded. Niv. The little one beamed. The three of them sat quietly after that. No shouting, no questions. Just space shared between strangers who were slowly becoming something else. Jera watched the scar again. It no longer looked ugly, it looked sacred, a proof of pain, a symbol of love. And suddenly, she asked the one question she never thought she would ask a human. Why? You help? Cole didn't answer right away. He looked at the necklace, then at Niv, then at her. Because someone helped me once and I failed to return it. Maybe this is my second chance. Jera's breath caught. For the first time, she didn't see a monster in front of her. She saw a man trying to rebuild his soul, one act of kindness at a time. The hunt that never happened. The wind changed that evening. It carried a strange scent, wet fur and acid breath. Jera smelled it first. Her senses were sharper than Cole's. She froze where she stood, holding Niv close. The sun was falling fast behind the rocks, and the shadows were crawling across the valley like claws. Cole noticed her body stiffen. What is it? He asked. Jera didn't answer with words. She simply grabbed a rock and placed it near the cave opening. Then another, then a third. Cole understood. Danger. He stood, scanned the horizon, and dropped to one knee. His helmet snapped shut, locking over his face with a soft hiss. The soft blue light of his visor came to life. They're close, Jera whispered. Ravagers. Cole turned to her. You know them? They hunt in packs. They eat everything. She pulled Niv into the cave, covering his mouth so he wouldn't cry. Cole stood outside like a wall. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He waited, and then they came. From the cliffs above, through the broken ruins, crawling like black fire. 6 ravagers, hairless, beasts with skin like melted armor, 4 eyes glowing red in the dark. Their legs moved like spiders, but they had mouths full of jagged teeth and thick tails that scraped across the rocks. Jera gasped and clutched Niv tighter. She had seen these monsters before, when they tore through her village. She had seen what they did to the bones of her husband. Her hands shook, but Cole, he didn't shake. He stepped forward, alone, no backup. No drones, just one man, one scarred man standing between death and a fragile alien mother. The ravagers growled. One lunged. Cole didn't move back. He pulled something from his belt, a compact plasma blade, and activated it. The weapon roared to life, glowing white-blue. The first ravager struck. Cole dodged, fast, fluid, then, slash, he cut across its face, spraying acidic blood onto the ground. Jera flinched. Niv whimpered. She placed her hand gently over his eyes. The second and third ravagers pounced together. Cole rolled to the side, grabbed a fallen spear from the ruins and drove it into one beast's eye. The creature screamed and collapsed. Another jumped, claws out too fast. Jera gasped as it slammed into Cole, dragging him down. Dust exploded. She saw his body roll, saw blood, heard growling. Her heart cracked. No. Then, boom, a flash. Grenade went off. Light and sound blasted the area. The ravager tumbled off, dazed. Cole stood again, bleeding, breathing hard. His armor was dented, his arm gashed open, but he wasn't done. The last 2 ravagers circled him slowly. They were bigger, smarter, waiting for weakness. Cole didn't give them time. He pulled a flare from his pack and snapped it. The sky lit up, bright, red fire shooting upward into the sky like a signal. The ravagers paused. Then, from the cliffs, a louder roar echoed. Not from humans. Not from beasts, but from jets, distant, thundering, sharp. Cole smiled beneath his helmet. Backup's close. The ravagers sensed it. They hissed, then ran. Vanished into the darkness. Gone. Jarrah couldn't believe it. He didn't just fight them. He scared them away. She rushed out as Cole dropped to one knee, panting, his hands on the ground. Blood dripped from his shoulder. Without thinking, she reached into his med pack and sprayed the wound. It hissed. He grunted in pain. She ripped a piece of her cloak and wrapped it around his arm. "You shouldn't have stayed," she said softly. "They could have killed you." He looked at her. "They were going to kill you?" She blinked. That answer was too simple, too honest. And somehow, it made her chest feel warm. Then Niv toddled out, barefoot and fearless, carrying the blinking toy. He walked up to Cole and placed the toy gently on his knee. Then he wrapped his small arms around the human's leg. "Safe," the child said in broken speech. Jarrah gasped. Cole removed his helmet slowly. His face was cut, dusty, but calm, and he smiled. Not the forced kind. The real kind. "Yeah," he whispered. "Safe." For the first time, Jarrah didn't see a human. She didn't see a predator. She saw a protector, and deep down, something dangerous began to form in her heart. Trust. The tribe who called him monster. For the first time in many moons, Jarrah didn't feel afraid when the sun rose. The wind was calm, the air warm. Cole sat nearby, his wounded arm bandaged and resting. Niv was curled up against his side, clutching his toy. Jarrah watched them in silence. There was something powerful about that image. An alien child, sleeping in the arms of a human her people once called carnivore. The very thought would have made her elders spit in disgust. But now, it looked like peace. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the cliffs, a deep hum. Not natural, familiar, mechanical. Jarrah stood quickly. Cole sat up too. "Ship," he said, scanning the sky. A shadow passed overhead, long and sharp. Not a human ship, not pirates, her people. Jarrah's breath caught. It was a scout ship, bearing the golden crest of her tribe. They had found her. After all this time, after leaving her alone to die, they had returned, or maybe they had tracked the flare. Cole stood. He didn't reach for his weapon, but his body tensed. Jarrah turned to him. "They're my tribe. My people." Cole nodded. "Good. You'll be safe." But Jarrah didn't smile. She knew how her people thought, how they had been raised on fear, on myths, on hate. And then the ship landed. The door opened, and 5 tribal warriors stepped out, cloaked in rough armor made from bones and desert leather. Their eyes glowed with suspicion the moment they saw him. And then they saw her, standing beside him. Their leader, Viel, snarled, "Jarrah, step away from the beast." Jarrah didn't move. Viel raised a jagged spear. "You stand too close to the one who would eat your child in the night." Cole didn't speak. He simply placed himself between Niv and the warriors. Jarrah stepped forward. "He saved us." Another warrior shouted, "He lured you, just like the humans did during the War of Ash. First kindness, then cages." Jarrah shook her head. "No. He gave Niv water when we had none. He fed us. He fought off ravagers." Vale's voice rose. "So he fights well? That makes him a hero?" Jarrah walked closer to him. Her voice shook with anger now. "Where were you when I needed help? When my mate died? When Niv starved? You left us." The warriors fell silent. Vale's eyes narrowed. "You speak as if he's one of us." Jarrah replied, "He acted more like family than my own tribe." Behind her, Niv toddled forward. He stood beside Cole and grabbed his hand. The warriors gasped. Vael took a step forward. This ends now. Move, Zera, or you will fall with him. Zera clenched her fists. No. Vael raised his spear, and then Cole stepped forward. One hand raised. Empty. Calm. He removed his helmet slowly, his bruised face open to them all. No malice, no threats, just words. I didn't come here to fight, he said, his voice low. I crashed. I was lost. I helped them because it was the right thing to do. Vael growled. And how do we know it's not a trick? Cole looked down at Niv, then at Zera. Because I didn't ask for anything in return. The wind howled around them. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, a sound. A soft sound. A slow clap. An elder stepped out from behind the warriors. Elder Rahl, Zera's uncle. Blind in one eye but wise beyond years. He spoke slowly. The truth is in the child. Everyone turned. Niv was still holding Cole's hand. Elder Rahl nodded. If the child sees no monster, then perhaps neither should we. Vael spat on the ground furious, but he said no more. The warriors lowered their weapons. Zera exhaled slowly. Cole looked at her, and for the first time, she smiled at him. That night the fire was bigger, warmer. The tribe sat around it, whispering, watching, not trusting, but not attacking either. Zera sat beside Cole, Niv asleep on her lap. You stood your ground, Cole said softly. I had to, she replied. You deserved it. He looked into the flames. That's a first. She tilted her head. What now? Cole shrugged. I'll leave when I fix my ship. I don't want to stay where I'm hated. She looked at Niv, then back at him. Not, everyone hates you anymore. Cole looked at her. Her eyes held something new. Not fear, not doubt, but faith. And in that moment, something silent passed between them. An unspoken truth. They were no longer just human and alien. They were something else now, a bond made in fire, tested by fear, and stronger than blood. The trial of trust 3 days had passed since the warriors arrived. 3 long days of cold stares, whispered threats, and uneasy silence. Cole didn't leave the edge of the camp. He repaired pieces of his broken ship, quietly, always watched, always judged. He never raised his voice, never answered their insults. He just stayed, not as a guest, not as a prisoner, just there. Zera knew it wasn't enough. Saving her, saving Niv, even surviving the ravagers. None of that would matter if her tribe didn't see it for themselves. And so, she went to the Council of Sand, a ring of stone elders who ruled by tradition, memory, and fear. They agreed to hold a trial, not of guilt or crime, but of intention. An ancient ritual to decide if a stranger could be trusted or banished forever. If he failed, Cole would be marked and hunted across the system. No protection, no food, no warning. Zera sat across from the council, her hands cold. Cole stood beside her, his wounds still healing, his helmet off, eyes calm. He didn't speak. Because humans weren't allowed to speak during a trust trial, only the witness could. Zera was his voice. Elder Rahl, the one-eyed leader, raised a crystal rod. His voice echoed across the cave walls. We gather to judge the stranger of Earth, the one called Cole. We do not judge his species. We judge his choices, his heart. Zera stepped forward. Let the truth be told, the elder said. And she began. She told them everything. How she and Niv were starving, how the human gave them water, how he lit a fire without coming near, how he fought ravagers, alone, how he bled for them, and finally, how her child, who barely spoke, had called him safe. When she finished, the room was silent. Then, Elder Vasca, the sharp-tongued female elder, rose. She spoke coldly. Your child is not the law. Children follow anything with a soft voice. What if the human is a patient predator, a slow hunter? Jera didn't flinch. Then he would have eaten us long ago, she replied. He had 100 chances, but he never took one. Another elder spoke. Perhaps he wants something else. Our secrets, our codes, our tech. Jera turned to Cole. He was sitting on a stone bench, calmly repairing a bent piece of his broken scanner. His face had no anger, no fake smile, just patience. She pointed to him. He's not trying to join us. He just wants to leave. But when he saw suffering, he stopped. He stayed. He helped. And why should that matter? Elder Vasca snapped. Jera's voice cracked. Because none of you did. The words hit the cave like thunder. The elders froze. You all left me, she continued. When my mate died, when I begged for help, when I hid in the rocks with a starving child, you called me, cursed, you turned away. She took a breath. But he didn't know me, didn't owe me. Yet he gave me more than you ever did. The silence was thicker now. And then, Elder Rahl spoke. Then let us test what can't be spoken. He brought out the stone of intent, a shimmering black crystal that glowed when touched. Not by force, but by truth. They placed it in the center. Jera looked at Cole. He stood, walked forward slowly, and placed both hands on the stone. It flickered. Then glowed, soft blue, trust, sincerity, peace, the color of clear skies. The elders stared. No tricks, no hesitation. The stone had read his heart. Cole stepped back, and for the first time since landing on this planet, someone clapped. It was Elder Rahl. Then the judgment is passed, he said. The human is not a threat. He is a guardian, in strange skin. Outside, the warriors watched as Cole walked out of the trial cave beside Jera and Niv. No one spoke, but no one raised a weapon either. That was enough. Later that night, Cole sat near a new fire, this one built by Jera's people. She sat beside him, Niv asleep between them. You didn't have to do all that, Cole said. Jera replied softly. You didn't either. But you did. He stared at the stars. It's strange. I came here by accident, crashed, alone. I thought I'd die here. She looked at him. You didn't. He smiled slightly. Not yet. Then she leaned her head gently against his shoulder. No words, no promises, just presence. In a world that had always called him a monster, he had finally been seen, not for what he was, but for who he chose to be. The protector. They never expected. The fire crackled low under the violet night sky. Cole sat quietly, polishing the last part of his comms unit. It had taken him days, but the signal was finally working. Tomorrow, a human rescue ship would land, on Karen 4. He could go home. But the strange thing was, he didn't feel ready to leave. Not because he feared the desert. Not because of his wounds. But because of the two souls asleep beside him. Jera lay curled in the sand, her arm over Niv's tiny chest. The child slept peacefully now, no longer scared of the wind or the dark. No longer hiding from imagined monsters, because his monster had become his protector. Cole looked up at the stars and whispered, Home feels further away now. He didn't expect Jera to answer, but she did, softly, eyes still closed. Maybe you found a new one. By dawn, the camp was full of movement. Word had spread across the region about the human who saved one of their own, stood trial, and passed the stone of intent. Many didn't believe it, so they came to see it for themselves. And they saw him, not with guns, but carrying water, not building weapons, but fixing a broken generator for the tribe's well. not talking about war, but playing with a child who once cried at the mention of his species. Some of the younger warriors approached him curious. One even asked about Earth. Cole described it as best he could. Loud, messy, beautiful, broken, full of people trying their best and failing half the time. They laughed, and somehow that laughter changed things. Later, Cole stood at the edge of the landing zone. His ship's signal beacon blinked steadily, growing stronger with each minute. Jera walked up beside him. Niv rode on her hip, one hand gripping her braid, the other reaching for Cole's shoulder. "You're going?" she asked. He nodded. "They'll be here soon. Can't stay forever." Jera was silent for a long time. Then she asked quietly, "Do you want to?" Cole didn't answer immediately. He watched the sky, then turned to her. "I came here a broken man. I just wanted to survive, but I found something else." Jera looked at him. "And what did you find?" He gestured gently to Niv. "Laughter, trust, a reason to protect something again." Then his voice softened. "And someone who saw me not as a soldier, not as a monster, but as a man." Jera looked down, unsure what to say. Then the wind shifted, and in the distance, a sleek, silver ship pierced the clouds. Cole looked back at her. "You'll be safe now. Your people know. They respect you." "But it wasn't me," she said. "It was you." He smiled. "Maybe it was both of us." The ship touched down, steam hissing from its vents. The hatch opened, but Cole didn't. "Move." Niv reached for him again. Jera gently lowered the child. Niv ran to Cole and hugged his leg tightly. "You come back?" the child asked in his small, broken voice. Cole knelt down and looked him in the eyes. "Only if your mother lets me." Jera blinked, and then without a word, she stepped forward and placed something in his hand. It was a hand-woven bracelet, simple, made of thread and beads, but it had her tribe's crest on it, the symbol of chosen family. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Cole stood. He turned toward the ship, then paused and turned back. He pulled off his necklace, the one with the photo, and handed it to her. "Keep it," he said. "If I don't come back, Niv will know I meant to." Jera took it slowly, her hands trembling, and as Cole walked up the ramp, something happened. The warriors saluted him, one by one, quietly, with their fists to their chests, even vile, not because he was human, but because he had protected what they hadn't. Weeks passed. News of the human protector spread beyond Karen 4. Other tribes wanted to meet him. Other children asked about the tall man with the soft voice. And among the stars, Cole returned to his people. He walked differently. No, not with the heavy steps of a soldier, but with the purpose of a man who knew what mattered. And on his wrist always was a small hand-woven bracelet, old and fragile, but stronger than any armor.